Rcadia, you guys are building out an arcade system that's connected with the Root Network, and I think that we are at a time where the entire Ripple and XRP ecosystem is really starting to take focus, and you've been able to kind of start building towards being a part of that massive ecosystem. So, from your point of view, you're seeing all these news. Brad Garlinghouse coming out talking extremely bullish about everything going on with Ripple and XRP, but you guys at Rcadia decided to build on the Root Network. So can you give us some examples of what Rcadia is building and why you guys ended up choosing the Root Network to do it on?
Well, we were actually into XRP long before that we sort of discovered the Root Network. So, building our Root was eventually it was always meant to be for us. It was the tech was going to come from somewhere around the XRPL. So we were lucky to sort of fall straight in on it, and it's our rightly home, I think.
It's interesting though to see the aspect of XRP seeming to be like the focus for 2025. I don't know if you feel the same way, but every single year we go through the notion of somebody saying, "Oh, this year is going to be for gaming," and I felt like that was kind of last year, and it happened a little bit at points. But when you look at 2025, do you think that it's actually going to be the year for blockchain gaming, or do you think just the technology and the blockchain components are kind of hidden, and it just kind of segues into mainstream gaming?
I got a feeling it's just going to be a good year for crypto as a whole. I think game is going to get sucked up with it this time. But yeah, I've got a feeling, the big boys like Ripple and the big chains are going to be sort of making heavy moves this year.
And when you guys are forming together the Rcadia team, building for all of this, what were some of the things that you guys were looking for? How did you guys come together? You mentioned that you were, following the XRP ecosystem much before this time even started. So can you tell me about the history?
Yeah, so obviously we've been we were in the XRP space as another YouTube channel, Love for Crypto, many years ago, and then we stopped doing that because it got a bit a bit too much, and then we sort of got back together when we knew the NFTs were going live with on the Root Network, and that's when we sort of said to ourselves, right, we can sort of make a stand here, and we sort of pulled this team together, which is a few of the members from Love for Crypto from before. And then we've pulled just a few friends that we've picked up along the way, community members, and that's how we formed, really.
And for Rcadia itself, what is it for somebody that's coming through that is looking at the Root Network and seeing Rcadia highlighted here and there? We know that it's involved with games, but there's also guilds. It seems like there's a lot that's going on.
Yeah, Rcadia is it's aimed to be sort of a digital hub for communities that want to build out on the Root Network. So we've got like an entertainment hub, which is the arcade essentially, and then we've got clans that are forming to take on routes into the open metaverse via Open and other sort of projects.
So when you talk about like the clans and guilds, I go back to when I used to play old school RuneScape. Well, technically RuneScape when it was back in the day, but old school nowadays, where there was clans you were involved with, where you could go and do these different mini games. And then over in the likes of Guild Wars, it was similar, where you could kind of enter these PvP tournaments. And for us, we're looking at the Futureverse powered ecosystem, where there's a lot of different games, from Gods and Goblins to the Third Kingdom, which we now have kind of these factions that are being highlighted. But when you talk about having guilds for the Root Network, does that encompass all of these different games? Is that supposed to be focused on open when that launches? Is there any kind of insights for like how we should view clans right now?
Right now, it's you're forming communities ready for the projects that are coming. Mainly, we're starting off in the arcade as just building out the guilds together. But yeah, we want to move into open if we can, and you can see already with things like TTK with their is it the Great Hall, and they're picking teams at the minute. I mean, it's going to be similar to that, so you can imagine how that's going to go.
And for the Rcadia passes, there are some different variations between them. So can you give kind of an explanation of what the difference between them is?
Okay, yes, we've got 3 different rarities. The plan is that when the 3D arcade is about, we're going to have members areas. So that's one bonus. There's other things coming this year. You've probably seen some news about Arcadium. We have a token planned. So there's lots of things that these passes can be involved with, and also whitelisting opportunities this year. We want to get into the new projects that come into Root, sort of get in the middle for our community. See if we can branch out and figure out more partnerships using them.
Well, can you talk to me a little bit about like going on the Root Network from a early standpoint? Because as I mean, all of it, we're kind of like all of a community, right? That was following Futureverse, and we have these different digital assets that are part of it. And now we're seeing different collections come on board. Where you came on board, we're doing different interviews with a whole bunch of people that are building on Root as a whole. But you kind of have to take a bet in a way because this is a brand new blockchain. The users are getting onboarded. We're seeing slow growth over time with it, but I mean, you are, as I said, taking a shot with it. So when with your conviction around XRP and Ripple and then joining in Root, how do you kind of see the landscape forming as someone who's building and potentially has a little bit of behind the scenes look and seeing some of these other people come on board? Is it something that you see as it's going to happen very quickly, or is it something that you're having meaningful builders on board and it's going to be a little bit more of a slow rollout for all of the others that are coming on?
I think it's going to speed up. I mean, it's been quite slow the last couple of years, hasn't it? And then all of a sudden, bang, everything at once. And you can see it happening now, can't you? Like it's almost every sort of other week you see another name popping up on TRN, or someone wants to come across from the XRPL. It's exciting times, eh?
And when we're trying to connect the two communities, because you said that you were more familiar with the XRP side, what do you think is going to be like the catalyst to get the XRP users on board to the Root Network? Is it just once because we're using like the Ripple stablecoin and kind of using that from my point of view, but I think there's obviously a lot more to it. So how big is that XRP army that they talk about?
It's a Goliath, isn't it? And it's been a sleeping giant for what 7 or 8 years now that I first got into it. Yeah, it's really one of the most exciting things in Web3, if you ask me.
And I had an interview with Rox a little bit earlier, and one of his key focus points on it was talking about how Ripple has a ton of liquidity, and it's really kind of been suppressed over the past several years. And obviously, within the SEC in the States, there's the whole debacle around that. But do you think that 2025 is going to be the breakout year for Ripple and XRP?
Like you said, we've said this every year for so long. I'd hate to jinx it, but fingers crossed, man. I mean, the future is bright for XRP.
And so when we are looking at Rcadia, and we've talked about some of the games, what are some of the games that are available on the platform right now?
Okay, so we've got pinball, which is sort of like a 3D table that you can go and play right now. We've got sort of remakes of Space Invaders. We just added a 4-in-1 collection, like a 4-in-1 cartridge, which has got Snake, Asteroids, and there's a few others on there, yeah. But we've got what else have we got? You've put me on the spot now, Shio. I got to remember.
So it is really all focused on kind of like arcade style games, and so everything that you guys are probably going to launch to that are focused on more of that like old school retro vibe.
Well, the first generation, we wanted to get some sort of first gen arcade games out, and then as the platform fleshes out, then we start working on some more expensive titles, if you will, more sort of closer to sort of would you say AA, side scroll, just a lot more in depth than they are now. We've got a lot of plans for, if you want to hear about it, we're working on some VR titles, to be honest with you, but these are going to be a little bit of a way off until we get the groundwork put in.
I love the aspect of you mentioning VR at all, because I really think that that's something that, as we joked about a second ago about how we say every year, this is going to be the year for Ripple and XRP, but for VR, it's something where, the Apple Pro, or I think it was called, the Apple Vision came out and it was like hype for a day. Everybody talked about it and then it just completely went to the wayside. Obviously there's Meta Quest. And I think that if you've used a VR headset, they are cool, but it does feel like it's not at the point that you think it would, with the whole, looking at Ready Player One and seeing the vast worlds that were created there. But it is something that I think is going to get more attention over the next couple of years. Do you agree with that?
I do, yeah. And I get terribly travel sick with VR at the moment. But we're thinking if we can find like a good ground to start on, and we're looking at we've been looking at a poker game that can be VR that we can use our fluff to sit at the table with. So, so it's not going to be too much on the tech side, but you can sort of look around at the table and see everyone's avatars there. And obviously the poker thing was a good it's a good little thing the community likes to get around, eh? So if we could have a token gated poker game sat at the table as your fluff, I think that would be a great thing for everyone to rally around.
Yeah, it'd be good to see the bluffing that goes on in VR fluffs. That's
Exactly.
hilarious.
Yeah.
So you guys minted through Tradeverse with Shen. I'm kind of curious if we can go in depth at all about what the experience was like with working with Tradeverse. Obviously, for people that are in the Root ecosystem, we know that is kind of our main NFT marketplace right now. Shen's on the timeline all the time talking about these AI agents that's coming out. What are your thoughts on Tradeverse, and what are your thoughts on what Shen's doing overall?
Yeah, those guys have been smashing out, haven't they, all the last year. They're great to work with as well. When we went onto the platform, they were they were side by side the whole way. So it was a great experience, and obviously I urge anyone else that has a project that they want to launch to hit Shen up, hit Tradeverse up, and see what you can do.
And curious, just from your perspective, how do you see like the landscape opening up as we saw several different dexes come on? Where I mean, Trainverse is now doing their own, but we have Moai, we had Dexter. I'm curious if there is any kind of other NFT marketplace that might come by in the future, and we have all these different ecosystems, sorry, not ecosystems, but builders that are coming on to what's going on with Root. Do you see this as more, no matter what it is, everybody's going to be kind of supportive of it, or do you think that it's going to be more of a competitive nature as the pie grows bigger and bigger?
I mean, as for competition, the more building on the network is better for all of us because it's more transactions going through. It's more, it's more usage. So the more the merrier. And I think we're going to see a lot more of everything. To be honest with you.
It's kind of exciting to see all of that. But as we're wrapping up here, is there any things that you're wanting to mention for people that aren't familiar with Arcadia or what you guys are doing? Anything you'd want to highlight or encourage them to go and check out?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't got a pass, it's good news because we are going to have a free-to-play sort of setup coming early this year. So you're going to be able to jump in and test the platform. But other than that, we just want to thank the community really because they've shown us so much support ever since from long before the mint. They've been nothing but supportive, constantly giving us feedback in the games and in Discord. So yeah, it's a big thanks to you guys for making it happen.
Phenomenal. Well, Hooded, thank you so much for joining on in here. If somebody's wanting to follow you on social media and also check out Arcadia, what are the best ways to find you and also the Arcadia socials?
We're on X at Arcadia HQ, and you can find us on the web app at arcadia.xyz.
True. That's going to be it for this edition of, I don't know what we're calling it, but we've been interviewing a whole bunch of people that are building on the Root Network. If you like my forehead, if you like that video, would love for you to subscribe to the channel, or if you're watching on X, to follow along. If you are enjoying this content, I do go live every single day, Monday through Friday, for a stream that we call XFeed, going over your tweets and general news in the NFT and Web3 space, covering what's happening with the Root Network, Futureverse, and beyond. If you're more interested in the real-world asset side of things, please do check out the RWA Segments podcast. That focus is a little bit more on the real-world asset side of the crypto things. Anyway, from my forehead, myself, and everyone else that was on the stream, thank you for watching.